Hey Pratham, I guess we are finally on the road for this one. So welcome to the podcast. And I guess we've been trying to get in touch with each other since a while, but I was keeping a bit caught up since I guess last 2 weeks, and then there was something which had come up in the family, so that caused this delay. But thank you so much for for coming over, and I think it's going to be a great conversation, ahead. So, just for the viewers, Pratham, just wanted to know something about yourself, and then of course, we can take it up the conversation through the entire podcast.
So, yeah, firstly, thank you, Advaita, for inviting me on the podcast. I'm looking forward to this conversation. So, for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Pratham Padav. I have my own podcast. It's called The Labyrinth. I've been doing that podcast for 2 years, and prior to that, I had another podcast as well.
Oh,
So
is
on
it
my
okay?
podcast, yeah, I had another podcast called Algorithm with the two of my friends, and then things didn't work out, and then I started this on my own in
Okay.
2021, in
So,
the
how
middle
long
of.
did that one go? The algorithm one?
It was 8 episodes, 1.5 month. Yeah.
Okay.
So this one I've been doing it for 2 years, for more than 2 years. Getting I wouldn't say like-minded people, all kinds of people, people who agree with me, disagree with me, just like to have an open conversation, just want to know how the world is working.
Yeah. No, that's great. So have you had any of your shows on which there has been a disagreement per se or a major disagreement per se, and like how was it? Because I am a
There
new
ha-
podcaster, like I've started this thing very recently, and sometimes when I look back on my first recording which I did, I can't believe that was me because I could spot so many flaws over there, etc. So I guess we improve as we do such things. So how has your experience been on this podcast journey so far?
it's been a, I would say, wonderful journey. Lately, I've been putting fewer episodes. When I began, I would put 1 or 2 episodes a week. Now it's one
Okay.
episode a month because I think I've lost interest. Now I think I now I think I want to go on other podcasts and get people on the podcast.
Yeah.
I think I've got enough guests. I think I've spoken
Mm.
enough. And yes, there has been disagreements every now and then. Sometimes, as the host, we hesitate to disagree in a frank way. We try
Yeah.
to navigate. At the
Yeah.
same time, we don't want to be a bobbling head, also, like the
Yeah.
most famous
Sure.
podcaster of this country. So
Yeah.
we.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I know who you were talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So, because the audience gets to know, and I have a very small but a very tight community, like the people
Mm.
do comment and say, hey, you should have disagreed with them here. You should have shared your opinion.
Mm.
So, sometimes when you don't disagree, also you feel disappointed, but you should know how to disagree. You can't get into
For
some
sure.
meaningless argument as well.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's very important to disagree respectfully, because so many people in the world and everyone might have a different opinion on a lot of things. And unless, people disagree respectfully and, still are able to maintain that camaraderie in the relationship, whatever the relationship be, I guess that's a sign of a matured, a setup or a relationship, you could say.
Yeah.
So I've heard and saw and seen a few of your podcasts, and I guess how we got connected online was because of a very common factor, which has been in our community, which was 2020, right?
Mm.
And so I guess we were seeing each other online. We were seeing the kind of posts which some of us were putting online, to tell the people what's going on, etc., etc. And then gradually the community started growing. And I guess last month I also had Ishi on the show, and we had some great conversations. So actually, since then, I was planning to have a word with you also. And the other day, you had put something on Threads regarding wanting to do a podcast or something. And yeah, so all right. So you've been doing your podcast since a long time. It's been 1 year. So regarding your earlier one, did it split because of the 2020 split narrative, or was it something else?
Uh, that my first podcast was in 2021, and
Okay,
it did have a doctor who was the first doctor to tell me that this
okay.
whole COVID narrative is bullshit. That
Was that Dr. Raj by any chance?
It was Dr. Krishna Mohan, not
Okay,
Dr.
okay. No, I don't know
Okay.
him. Okay,
Okay,
okay.
he has passed away now. He had cancer and he passed away. But prior to passing away, he told me all the things that I need to know about COVID. So that was his, I would say, his final contribution to the world. So the main reason why that podcast split was not necessarily because of COVID, but because of my way of thinking, and also because I was the host. I felt I'm friends with both of them, but I felt like I was doing most of the work and not having enough of
Okay,
us and not having enough
okay.
of a say.
All
And
right.
I would put it in subtle ways, but then gradually it got into an argument where I had to say, okay, I'll go my way, you guys go your way.
Okay, okay. Yeah. No, I guess that happens because considering the topics which you have been touching upon on this podcast, they are very varied. And I mean, usually, the famous podcasters of this country or any other country would not touch upon such varied topics, right? So I think you did a service to yourself and to everyone around, who have been watching your show, because there are some nuanced conversations which are going on there. So great. So uh, when was your, time of this awakening, we may call it, because uh, we clearly see, that there is a lot of bifurcation or a division pre 2020 and post 2020, right? And this bifurcation has been increasing since then on various topics, on various things, etc., etc. Started with the healthcare misinformation, which was positioned as uh, the correct information, and then went on to so many other tangents, be it the divisive ideologies, be it the divisive gender ideologies, be it the climate change, be it AI and whatnot, etc., etc. So, how has been this journey for you? And when was your time? That moment when you said that okay, I never knew that these things are happening in the world. So, how was it
So
like?
my COVID awakening happened around 2021, but maybe my original awakening happened much prior, maybe during school when I started questioning my parents or my elders. From then on itself, I've been sort of a free thinker, asking questions about society, government, why should we behave like this? That started in school itself. But
Hmm.
questioning about COVID, I think began heavily in 2021. Until 2020, I was a sheep. When the first lockdown happened, when the whole dawai bhi kadai bhi and all happened, and uh, maybe until then even I was like, maybe whatever the government is doing is for our own good. And I was
Yeah.
enjoying working from home. I don't have to go to office. I'm getting my salary. Why should I care? I was a little bit like that
Hmm.
during 2020. And but there was this thought at the back of my head in the beginning itself, why people are so stupid, or what, they're banging their plates, and you're
Yeah.
seeing WhatsApp forwards saying that if you bang your plate at 5 p.m., the echo of those vibrations will kill the virus. And you saw
Wow.
some minister saying that, what is that, go corona go. And you saw that, okay, the amount of scientific knowledge that our politicians have is very low. And should
No,
these
I was
people,
one of them,
yeah.
who participated in the banging of the plate right at my balcony. And, it was a very nice, environment right there, because we could see right in front of us, there's a building, and all the people have, come in their balconies and they are banging their plates. So, it gave a sense of community back then to a lot of people. And people thought that, they are coming up front for a common cause, and it gave a sense of virtue signaling, being virtuous, being moral, that they are contributing in a way by banging their plates, etc., etc. And even I realized after a week or maybe a month that what was I thinking, back then? Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So, and gradually, 2020 went away. He said 2 weeks you have to have a lockdown. I said, okay, fine, 2 weeks is fine. 2 weeks turned to 1 month, 1 month turned to 2 months. They're extending the lockdowns,
yeah,
and that didn't make any sense to me. Okay, I am
sure.
seeing when 2020, I was living in Bangalore. I'm seeing people are forcefully being taken to PCR tests. Cops are going and thrashing some people. I thought, wait, this doesn't make any sense. How is this going to fight?
Yeah,
How is this going to improve our health? How is this going to
sure.
fight the virus? This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
And early at that time, the only channel that I found was speaking openly was Real Truth TV on Instagram. It's run by my
Mayank,
friend
Mayank,
Mayank
yeah,
Kohli. Yeah,
Mayank Kolu. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he lives, just 1 kilometer away from my place. So we had met, I guess, last month. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
So and then after through that I after that page I found I started talking to doctors in my hometown of Mangalore. It's a small town, but there are many interesting people here. And in 2021, when after this lockdown happened, and my friends are very sensitive. They're using Dettol sanitizers, and they're wearing a mask and all that. And we came to my friend's house. We're sitting, we're having our drinks, we're eating. So I just asked casually, like, this doesn't make sense, right? Like, this was just
yeah,
before the second lockdown. You're wearing a mask from your house to this place in your car, in
yeah,
your bike
yeah.
alone, and we're sitting here, all of us, and then removing our mask. Does this make sense to
Yeah,
you?
not
And
at
they're
all.
like,
Yeah,
no, no, you don't know all this. You're speaking like an uneducated person. Now COVID is increasing in Maharashtra because of people like you. That, like, I'm like, how does this make sense? Like, we
yeah,
are sitting in one small town in Karnataka. How am I spreading COVID in Maharashtra? And
mm,
all these rules also doesn't make any sense.
yeah.
And so it went there, and my personal doctor was this doctor called Dr. Srinivas Kakilaya, and he became famous in 2021 because he went to a supermarket without wearing a mask.
Oh
And
yeah, he was in the news.
yeah, he was
I
in the
remember.
news.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I remember. Mm.
and I knew both parties. Okay, because I knew the person who was behind the cashier, the manager of that supermarket. He's my friend,
Okay,
and I knew this
okay.
doctor also. So I knew
All right.
both sides. So I knew the story quite well. And this doctor was asking reasonable questions. He was asking, like, why do we have these meaningless lockdowns? We can only leave our house between 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Then
Yeah,
everyone will rush to the supermarket at that time, and
yeah,
won't that cause more paranoia, more panic, more COVID hysteria?
yeah,
So he was asking this question. When I ask the same question, they'll say, "Oh, you're like a conspiracy theorist, nut job."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, and then the vaccine came. Vaccine side effects got a lot of limelight,
Mm.
and yeah, after that, I've been finding it very difficult to trust our so-called experts. And post that, I started questioning other things also. Like, there is a there is something called climate lockdowns. There is something
Yeah,
called
yeah, yeah.
world. They want to pass lockdowns to protect us from climate change. So I started researching after COVID. I started researching on climate change, about the World Economic Forum, and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess, you are completely right because since last 3 years, what we are seeing is that whatever is happening has been happening at the global scale, be it a virus, it was not restricted to a particular location or a particular country. Then be it, all these climate fiascos and climate, change, which they are, I think, weaponizing right now because I, so honestly, I don't know whether the climate is actually changing or not, whether, the temperatures are actually rising or not, because there are experts on the one hand which say that the temperatures have not been rising and the sea levels have been maintaining their status quo since many decades. And then there are other experts, who say that the temperatures have been rising. And then there are people like kids like Greta Thunberg, who are sitting at the World Economic Forum and, who are the face of the climate change. So, but one thing, which is clear is that whether it is changing or not, for sure, they are again weaponizing the climate change for forwarding their agendas and forwarding their narratives, just like they did during the COVID times. And if you see, suddenly, like, you can't drive your diesel vehicle if it's beyond 10 years, right? In Delhi. Uh, for petrol vehicles, I guess, the timeline is 15 years. And more, vehicles are being shifting, to the EVs right now, electronic vehicles. And there are many more measures, which have been happening. They are talking about carbon footprints right now. They are talking about decarbonizing the world. They are talking about every organism in the food chain, if we see right from the fruits and vegetables, how they are being farmed, and how that is contributing to the climate fiasco, to human beings who are at the top of the food chain. And again, this doesn't make sense at all, because farming has been happening since so many centuries in the most organic way, until and unless the industrialization of farming started to happen, right? And these experts are saying that the farts of the cows and buffaloes and the goats, etc., that is causing the rise in methane and, hence resulting into the climate crisis, etc. So this doesn't make any sense. I mean, this argument is very inorganic in a way. And now to counter this, they are putting an intervention at every step of the food chain. For example, GMO foods, right? So they are industrializing the foods, and we are getting to see seedless fruits now. The fruits actually don't have any seeds, so they can't be used for further growing, in an organic way. So these are about foods and fruits. Now coming slightly above the food chain, towards animals and all, animals are being vaccinated across the world, and so much gene mutation have been happening there. And then, human beings, of course, they are laying down various control agendas for people, uh, and trying to put a narrative that this is good for the climate. So yeah, everything has been happening at a global scale. And in one way, I think it would be right to say that this is nothing but a psyop, or a psychological warfare, which has been happening on people to keep them in a perpetual state of fear. Uh, what we call mass psychosis. During the COVID times, this term had gained a lot of traction and popularity. So yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. Lot has been happening. Some of the people have been going deep into the hypnosis, and there are other who are like trying to discern and trying to sort of understand, trying to do their own research on various things, etc., etc. So yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah,
And see, when it comes to the my politics is that I'm more of a libertarian. I think we should support, we should help people maximize their freedom and their liberty. We should have a smaller government, and you should have the freedom to decide what kind of car you want to drive, as long as you're not,
yeah,
you know, as long as your car is not killing someone or ruining
yeah,
someone else's peace. I think you can drive whatever car you want, diesel, petrol, electric, whatever you want. I even made a video on how many of the climate change experts, even NASA experts, have been wrong uh, to expose their track record. There has been more than, in that video, I covered like more than 20 to 30 newspaper reports in which a doctor from 1990s say by 2005 Arctic ice will melt. One more
yeah,
expert
yeah,
like Al Gore will say by 2015 ices will melt. Then Greta Thunberg put out a tweet in 2018 that 5 years
yeah, yeah.
from
Five
now
years,
humanity will get
and that
wiped
date
off.
just passed by a few weeks back, if I'm not wrong, right?
And she
Yeah,
deleted that as well, and she said that my data is being backed by some scientist. She even put a link to an article written by a scientist. So the argument that experts are always right is actually wrong. Climate change experts have have a long history of being wrong. Every 5 years, they keep updating the narrative because their previous narrative was wrong. They keep shifting the goalpost. So
Yeah,
we have to understand that since they have a terrible track record, we have to be skeptical and not believe everything that they say blindly.
definitely.
My stance on climate change is this. I think to a certain extent, climate change is happening. There is pollution. There's a lot of in India. There's a lot of garbage, lot of
Definitely.
plastic in lakes and rivers. There's too much. We are using too much electric gadgets. We become too
Mm,
dependent on this. So yes, there is pollution. There is adulteration of food, and we should do everything we can to protect our environment. But that we cannot we do not have to follow the exact instructions of the so-called experts. A guy
sure.
like Bill Gates will say we have to cover the atmosphere and reduce
Yeah,
sunlight to reduce
yeah.
climate change. Someone will say we have to introduce climate lockdowns, we have to ban
Mm,
meat because
yeah.
cows and goats, they fart methane out. I'll just say leave people, but at the same time, if there is a company like, let's say, Coca-Cola, there's too much of their plastic bottles ending up in the ocean. You should
Yeah,
have the right to file a lawsuit against them.
absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
like, we should be holding corporations and governments responsible rather than blaming everything on the individual and then reducing that individual's freedom. It's
Yeah,
always the top, it's always the people at the top holding the people at the bottom responsible. It should actually be the other way around. And even if you
absolutely.
see all these brand ambassadors of climate change like Leonardo DiCaprio, he goes on the yacht with 119-year-old supermodels, and that's fine. Again,
Mm,
what age group of girls he wants to sleep with is his business. But he
mm,
can't then lecture others and say, hey,
yeah,
you have to reduce your carbon footprint while I'm on a
yeah.
yacht. You see all these politicians like Al Gore buying mansions on coastal areas. They keep saying that
Yeah,
the
the
water
sea
will
levels
come
are
up,
rising and all.
sea
Yeah,
levels are rising, but he's buying a beachfront mansion.
yeah,
If the
yeah,
climates, if really the sea levels are rising, you would be buying a mansion on the mountains, not on the
yeah,
seafront.
yeah.
So it doesn't make sense to me. It's a different rule for them and different rule for the working class people.
Mm. No, you're absolutely right. And I guess you missed out one example, which is very famous, that all these politicians and these government heads, when they went to attend the climate change, uh, you know, the meeting,
At,
they flew in their
yeah, at
private
Davos.
jets. Yeah, they flew in their private jets, so many private jets. And again, when it comes to, wagging their fingers as if this is what should be done, that the responsibility of that, always falls upon the citizens of the world, always falls upon the people, while companies like Coca-Cola have been polluting our lands and waters since like so many decades, and their plastic bottles have been literally, I mean, wreaking a havoc all across the place. And still, these companies get awards for sustainability and stuff. So it totally, it doesn't make sense at all. And shifting the blame towards the citizens, I guess, has been their primary motive since forever. And the media is with them because, as such, the media is in the business of lying. They are really in the business of manipulating the truth, because as David Icke says, their strings are being pulled by multiple levels at the top, and sometimes these people are not even visible to the layman, because they don't show their faces. They are the people who are running the governments, the shadow governments type, etc., etc. And yeah, so I guess, yeah, your stance on climate change is pretty neutral, and I think I would agree with that, because both the narratives which are being pushed in the media right now are way too extreme. And I think yours is a type of a sort of a middle ground, wherein you've tried to analyze and take factors from both the sides, and it's being presented with live examples, like these people buying mansions at the sea beach, or they're flying in their private jets to these COP26, COP28, whatever it was, and these things have been happening. So since you've been doing your podcasts, I'm quite intrigued that the kind of guests which you've got. Uh, how many of them have been sort of on the same page or agreeing, on such topics? Because many shows and many podcasts are on very, very generic topics. Either they are covering a Bollywood news, either they are covering a Hollywood news, or they are covering what happened on the right wing or on the left wing, etc. So, how do you get your guests from, and where do you pick up your guests from, and like how do you go about it?
I think it happens mostly randomly, not even randomly. I think the word, there's this fancy word called synchronicity or something like that, where it's not happening completely randomly. Also, like uh, they say a ship goes against the tide. It doesn't care about the tide of the sea. You switch on the engine and you go. Meanwhile,
Yeah,
a dead fish goes with the wave.
yeah,
It's completely a slave for the wave. But then there's a middle ground. There is the a normal boat with the sail. You are taking advantage of the waves. You're taking advantage of the
yeah,
wind. But at the same time, you know where you have to go. So
yeah,
mine is that in between route. I'm sailing. I'm seeing where I have to go. I don't put too much force or too much effort, and I try to find like-minded people. And it's okay even if people disagree with me. And in the beginning, I was finding it a little difficult to get guests, but fortunately, I've been very lucky. I just send them message on Instagram, or I just email them.
yeah,
Sometimes they don't reply, sometimes they reply, and then the podcast happens. It's
yeah,
actually not that hard to get guests, as long as you don't have like big expectations. Like
yeah.
sometimes I on my Twitter, in my old Twitter account, I used to ask like, who do you want me to get on the podcast? And people would be like, get this celebrity. I tell them it's not
Okay.
possible. Okay, I'm not beer biceps. It's not easy to get a celebrity. But if you have some YouTuber who's got like 5,000, 10,000, even 50,000 subscribers, you can actually send them an email and they will
Yeah.
most likely say yes.
Most likely to respond. Yeah, yeah, because everybody, I guess, would appreciate the platform to express their views and to express themselves, and I don't think there would be anyone who would want to say no to that opportunity unless they are very introverted, or unless they are very shy people. So yeah, so what are your views on AI? Because uh, on LinkedIn, especially LinkedIn is a platform where uh, AI conversations and conversations about AI are happening the most. And, because people are constantly asking this question that will AI replace our jobs, right? And so, what's your opinion on AI and the way it has been developing in the last few years? And where do you think it is going from here? And what could be the the impacts of it on the normal functioning of things?
Yeah, I'm definitely not an expert, but as someone who's worked in financial industry and seeing, working with techies, I have an idea of how this can replace people's jobs, but not an AI engineer or anything like that. But I am also interested in the field of data analytics, uh, about how and why people collect customers' data to help
Yeah,
businesses make better
yeah,
decisions. And AI will only increase
sure.
uh, to understand a customer's buying habits, and then take that information and give it to companies like, let's say, Reliance Fresh or More Supermarket, and they will send you WhatsApp messages because they know exactly what you want to buy, and AI will help do all this. There are definitely benefits of AI. I don't think we should be completely paranoid of a new technology. Just
Yeah,
like how when the wheel was invented, I'm sure
yeah,
four people would have been unemployed even during caveman times
yeah,
because
yeah,
they could now move things more easily. I'm sure
Yeah.
AI will make some people. I think AI will make a lot of people unemployed. AI, machine learning, things like this, and we have to really ask ourselves when unemployment increases because of this. What what should we do? Should we give people unemployment checks like how they do in the developed countries in Europe? If you are unemployed, they'll give you some checks, some, and people live on that for months, for years,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it helps them get back on the job. And some people also become alcoholics because of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It gets them addicted to drugs. So we have to figure
Sure.
out how we have to move on with AI. That is one aspect when it comes to the economy. But the other aspect from the more conspiracy theory aspect is that will this dominate humankind? There are people like there are actual experts like Lex Friedman or someone like Elon Musk who's been in that space, who has a better idea of how to answer these questions. And Elon is also involved with Neuralink. He wants to put
Yeah.
chips inside people's brain, and
Yeah.
I don't know if the intention is good or bad. Maybe it can help disabled people. I heard that it can help
Yeah.
people with disability to walk again.
Yeah.
Or if that is the situation, then fine, I guess. But also we should know where to draw the line.
Yeah.
And I think we need more people to participate in this. The problem with this conspiracy, the Indian conspiracy community, is all they do is fear too much. Like, oh no,
Oh
Elon is
yeah.
doing this. Oh
Yeah.
no, this person is doing this. Oh no, the
Mm.
earth is flat. Or they go on and on and on. Okay.
Yeah.
But I tell them, like, why don't you learn something? Why don't you do a course on AI? Why don't try to get a job in an AI company so that you can guide the development of AI in a way that is desirable for humankind? What if
Mm.
AI can help you fight against the World Economic Forum? And if you
Mm.
understand AI, you can use AI to your advantage. If so,
Mm.
I think the solution to AI is to make AI as democratic as possible. More people should learn how, just like how the world in the past decade, millions of people have learned how to use Excel sheets. I think if millions
Mm.
of people learn things like machine learning, or if they can get jobs in the STEM field, then
Mm.
this process of AI development will be more democratic. No matter what happens, it shouldn't be too centralized. If only the
Mm.
people
Yeah.
at World Economic Forum have control of how AI gets developed, they will obviously use
Yeah.
it to their advantage.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And I guess that's how it is playing out to be, because these technocrats, very few of them have the entire reins of the AI industry, and you can literally name them on your fingertips. Like Elon Musk is there, Mark Zuckerberg is there, and a few more maybe. Yuval Noah Harari is a very, very strong proponent of AI and transhumanism and whatnot. I think I had seen one of your episodes wherein you had probably invited this guy from Sweden or from where. He
From
had some
Netherlands.
Yeah, he had a lot of chips inside his hand, and that was a very interesting episode. So why don't you talk a bit about that? Because I'm sure a lot of people are still thinking that Neuralink is nothing but a conspiracy theory, whereas it is out in the news. Mainstream media has been reporting this, and there are people in a few countries who are already, who have already merged with machinery, right? So talk to us about that guy who you had invited from Netherlands, and what did he do, and how did you reach out to him?
So the main intention for me to getting this transhuman, this guy who literally has chips, he has the most chips on the planet. He's got like I think he has 30 electronic chips, magnetic chips inserted inside his body, and the main
Wow.
reason is because I'm a do-it-yourself person. When there are people arguing saying that transhumanism is a conspiracy theory, I'm like, screw you, I'll get a transhuman on my
Get a
podcast, and then
transhuman. Yeah.
then I'll show you the podcast. Then I want to see you speak. So
Mm.
this podcast episode was meant to be like a slap on the face for people who
Mm.
say transhumanism is a conspiracy theory. And now
Mm.
what can you say? So that's why I got him. So I saw this video on Vice about transhumanism, and in that video there was this nurse from Spain. she's skeptical of transhumanism, but still she will, insert chips into people, and you can pay her a fee. So I texted her on Instagram. She said, "No, I don't want to come on your podcast." I said, "Okay, fine."
Okay.
Then, okay. Then on as that Wise episode continued, it spoke about this Facebook group called RFID implantees. So where there are people around the world who insert RFID chips into their body, and they're on Facebook group, and they help each other out. They give each other
Okay.
tips in case
Okay.
you get an infection, because it's like this job is even done by tattoo artists, because it's very simple. A small
Okay.
cut, you
Yeah.
can get it done in 5 minutes. It's almost painless. It's like piercing.
Yeah.
So I joined that group on Facebook. I started reading on their conversations, and then I said, "Hey, I have this podcast. I want to get a person who with a lot of chips. I want to get a transhumanist on my podcast." And two, three people
Mhm.
said, "Yes, we are ready. We are ready." And I saw the
Mhm.
most experienced guy was this guy. I think his name was Paul. Yeah, his name is Paul. So
Mhm.
Paul said, "Yeah, I've been doing this for more than 20 years. I
Okay.
have attended a transhumanist conference in the early 2000s, and I can, I move around with these chips." So he wants to open his car door. He just swipes his
Yeah. Yeah.
hand.
He just has to swipe his hand.
Yeah,
Make a
and the
payment.
car
Just
door
has to
opens.
swipe his hand. Yeah.
Exactly. He makes his payment,
Yeah.
he unlocks his phone. And
Mm.
this guy is a very open minded person. See, I have the same opinion as transhumanism as I have with AI also. I think transhumanism is okay as long as you do it by your choice. If you want to put a chip in your body because you think
Mm.
it is convenient for you to open doors or make payments, it's fine. But you should do it. Your bodily autonomy is important. Your consent is
Yeah.
important. No one should be forced
Yeah.
to do it. Government shouldn't force prisoners to put it in their body to
Yeah.
track them. I'm against all of that. I'm even against Aadhaar card because they forced all of us
Yeah.
to uh, put our fingerprints and our iris.
Yeah.
So, but this guy was very open minded. He even said openly, "Look, I am
What
not
was his
for."
age?
I think he is almost 40, if I'm not wrong.
Okay.
Or I
So a
think he's
fairly
in his
young guy.
40s. Yeah,
Yeah.
fairly
Fairly
young
young
guy. I
guy.
think he's
Mm.
around 40, I think.
Mm.
So, and this guy has been doing it from a very long time. Uh, and he can even pick up metal objects because he has magnets inside his hand. All these
Mm.
small
Mm.
metal objects, he can pick it up. He says there are many advantage. So I think even when it comes to transhumanism, rather than being paranoid, we should learn the tricks. We should, like, I want to learn from a transhuman how I can use
Mm.
transhumanism to fight the establishment. Rather than being
Mm.
afraid of it, I want to know. Let's say you hate the fact that government taxes you too much, so you start
Yeah.
investing in Bitcoin. Okay, now you have a lot of money in cryptocurrencies, so you can store all that data in a chip. You can people can store their Bitcoin in a pen drive, in a hard drive. So if you
Mm.
can take that chip and you can insert it in your body, and if you can move from one country to another country, spending your currency without
Yeah.
government surveilling you, that's actually a good
Mm.
thing. So for
Mm.
me, AI, transhumanism, these are not good or bad. It depends on how
Mm.
you, the individual, uses it. And we should also make sure that this happens in a decentralized way. And this should empower
Yeah.
people rather than empowering the people who are in authority.
Yeah. So, I have been involved with the technologies like blockchain and Web3 since I would say 1 year. And recently, I was also working with, I mean, I'm still am, associated with this health and wellness startup, which is about to come up in the Web3 space and the blockchain space. And of course, there's a lot of AI also involved over there. As you rightly said, that technology is basically agnostic, and the way it is used that matters. But I still have a little bit of, you know, uh, discomfort in the way these technologies have been centralized by a few people at the top of the hierarchy, right? These few people are, people in the World Economic Forum and a few technocrats, right? So the problem is that if these technologies, which are being talked about, to be given access to every human being, if they are being centralized by very few people at the top, right, then it creates a kind of a totalitarian landscape, because these people who are at the top, if they are controlling the chips which are inside your body, or if they are controlling the computer system which is inside your electric vehicle, right, then, as Yuval Harari says, human beings are hackable, at a state, at a time in point, at a point in time, sorry. And I don't know if he's trying to scare the people by saying such things that human beings are hackable or not. But that possibility cannot be dismissed, because it is being so centralized. The control of these technologies is so centralized in the hands of few people that it would depend on their whims and fancies on the one hand, and on the ignorant of the masses on the other hand. When these two things would be marrying each other, their intentions and our ignorance, right? I think that has a potential of creating a lot of havoc in the way people think, because these guys have been also talking about enhancing the human consciousness, and I think when they say, or when they talk about enhancing the human consciousness, they are trying to lay a foundational narrative of transhumanism, because what they're trying to say is that since AI is developing at such a rapid pace, so in order for our consciousness and our intelligence to keep up with that pace, you know, it is essential for human beings to have chips inside their brain, so that they can augment their humanity, right? They can augment their thoughts, they can augment their senses, right? So yeah, so I think it's kind of tricky, as to how this will play out in the real world scenario. But only one thing which gives me a slight negative hint is that this technology is being centralized at the top, right, by very few people. And yeah, that is one thing, which suggests to me that the intentions or the consequences of such technologies would be decided or would be directed by the controllers, because the control is not in the hands of normal people.
Yeah.
The control is in the hands of people who are, trying to direct the Great Reset, or trying to direct the the shift, the way the world behaves, because everything is changing. The way corporates work, that is changing. Human behavior is changing, because since 2020, like, I've spoken with so many people, and even when I look at this from my own perspective, I think there have been so many changes in on the behavioral side of people also, because of the lockdowns. People were made to uh, distance themselves from their friends, from their family members. So this has definitely played out, in the minds of people, and certainly people were gripped by a lot of fear because of all this. And now, uh, as far as I see, is that this psyop is being further strengthened by weaponizing other things like AI, like climate change, which we just spoke about, like transhumanism, etc., etc. I mean, on the one hand, World Economic Forum and United Nations talk about sustainability and sustainable development goals, and on the other hand, they are they are promoting artificial intelligence at such a rapid pace. Now, how can sustainability and AI go hand in hand? Because if AI is raising its head at such a rapid pace, it means that people's jobs might not be sustainable. It means that the way people have been living their lives so far might not be sustainable. So actually it's totally contradictory, whatever narrative they are saying, because they are talking about sustainable development goals, and
No,
people have been, yeah,
if I may, it actually goes hand in hand according to their plan. Because if their plan is to reduce human population and thereby, promote sustainability by reducing
exactly,
human
yeah,
carbon,
yeah,
then AI
yeah,
and this agenda goes hand in hand.
absolutely,
The population of horses peaked in 1915, and after 1915 their population went down because they became unemployed because of the advent of automobiles. Now
yeah,
the horses were muscles, and the cars are mechanical muscles. Now we don't have AI is not mechanical muscle, it's a mechanical brain. So all
yeah,
the service level jobs that we have been doing from the past few decades, like there is something like a receptionist. Most of the receptionists in the world, even without AI, is easily replaceable. Even without
yeah,
AI.
yeah,
So there are
yeah,
so many of these meaningless kind of mundane jobs, repetitive
yeah,
jobs, auditors. All of these can be easily replaced, and
sure,
AI can even replace creative jobs. If you look at all these reels
yeah,
of of all, if you see all the paintings that AI has done, that it
yeah,
has done on its own, you will ask, okay, now we are at a point where even poets and painters should get unemployment benefits because even they can't
yeah,
get a job.
yeah,
So that's where we are at right now. And when it comes to centralization of technology, using technology to enslave humanity, the biggest antidote is free thinking. I agree with
absolutely,
Yuval Noah Harari to a certain extent when he says that we are hackable human beings because we have exhibited that behavior. We have
sure,
behaved like hackable human beings.
yeah,
Even
yeah,
without AI, the way
yeah,
society makes us thinking, like my
yeah,
aunts will always say, like they'll say in Kannada or in Hindi, like char log kya kahenge, like what will society think of you. That is a kind of hacking. They want you to be
absolutely, yeah,
enslaved to tradition, to culture.
yeah,
So the
yeah,
when you start questioning your aunts at home, which is much more harder than criticizing Modi or Zuckerberg, that's
yeah,
when you start to, like, you develop a nerve, you develop a spine, and from
yeah.
there you can go. And if you can, I believe if you can face Indian aunts, you can face Zuckerberg also. So so once people start thinking freely, I think a lot of these, we can come out, we can beat even centralized technology to a certain extent. Of course, they have more power than us. It's like Zuckerberg in 2020 he came up with this metaverse where everyone wears that VR thing, and people are, for hours or even days inside that they're playing some video game,
Yeah,
and they can work in that, they can live in that to a point, to the point that they'll believe that that is real. Okay,
yeah,
now we are not wearing that, right? We are not wearing that VR machine, but in a way we are wearing that, as in
yeah,
we are believing that we want to make more money because society told us to make more money.
yeah,
We believe in a narrative because government wants us to believe in a certain narrative.
mm,
We are nice to people who we shouldn't actually be nice to because what will people think of us? So even though
yeah.
we are not wearing Zuckerberg's metaverse, we are actually wearing someone's metaverse.
That's very
We are
well said. Yeah,
okay. We are already
yeah,
putting filters on ourselves. First,
yeah,
let's emancipate ourselves through free thinking, through rationalism, through
yeah,
skepticism. Let's give ourselves a reality check every day. Let's call our own bullshit first. And when we do that, it'll become almost impossible for the heads of social media companies to enslave
absolutely. Yeah,
us. Because
yeah.
right now, through reels or through this short form content, they want our attention span to go
Attention
down. They
spans
want,
going down.
yeah, they want us to follow the trends. They want us to wear the same pants as them. They want us to do the same dance moves as them. They want us to have the same opinions as them. It's so perverted that even weapons companies like Lockheed Martin, that's responsible for killings of many children in Middle East, will sponsor a pride parade. Recently, there was a pride
Yeah,
parade which was sponsored by
yeah, yeah.
Lockheed
Which was
Martin.
sponsored by
Yeah,
Lockheed Martin. Yeah,
yeah. and the masses will think, oh, Lockheed Martin is so empathetic because they are helping people
They
who
are in the
are
business of killing people
yeah.
and killing
So
children. Yeah.
exactly. So even if these weapons companies try to promote sustainability or
Hmm.
environmental development, we'll get fooled so easily. Even though
Yeah.
they make profits by destroying environment, they make profit by killing children. So first we need to start questioning ourselves. We need to improve society's ability to think freely. Once that happens, I think people like Zuckerberg or people like Bill Gates, it'll be much harder for them to use technology to enslave them, because first and foremost they need our participation. And you see the way
Absolutely.
people have blindly participated with lockdowns, the way people have been blindly following, people have been blindly lining up for boosters, and this was all done without AI. This was just done because of print media and through TV
Yeah.
media. So,
Yeah.
so if people can think freely, none of their tricks will work.
So, uh, taking it ahead from here, because you made a very valid point that whether the VR glasses of Mark Zuckerberg is there on our eyes or not, in a way, we are still wearing some glasses. It could be rose tinted glasses, as they say, when we fall in love, or it could be any other, narrative which has been pushed upon by our family, by our community, by our religion, etc., etc. So, in essence, these two things are not different. It's just the architecture of the glass, etc. So, uh, you just said that these things are only possible, and I totally agree with that. When on the one hand, there are people who want to do this, and on the other hand, there are people who are ignorant about it, and they are letting these people do this. So when these two things get intertwined or get married, the consent automatically shows up, and such things and such agendas are forwarded. So what is your opinion, around, because I'm sure you have also witnessed this since 2020, like so many of us, that when we have tried to send out the message or broadcast something which was not being shown on the mass media, or when we have tried to show the ugly truth to a lot of people around us, etc., many of them have said that I don't want to participate in the negativity, right? Because it affects my mind, and you should think positive. And they quote quotations from the new age spirituality books, that one should stay positive, one should not focus on all the negativities which are going around in the world. One should not focus their energies on the side effects of these shots. One should not focus on the lies which the government has told us since so many years. uh, what is your opinion on that? Like, what are they actually doing? I mean, are they really trying to help themselves, or are they just trying to avoid a situation in a very convenient way by placing their head on the shoulders of the new age spirituality movement, or something like that?
Yeah, I think this whole new age spirituality movement is a psyop. I think it's designed to make you not worry about the issues. True spirituality is facing the truth no matter how negativity it is.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, you have to. You have to bear the pain. You have to, if necessary, you should even lock yourself in the room and cry the whole day,
Yeah.
because there are children out there as at this very moment who are being trafficked. And to say
Yeah.
that you shouldn't focus on that negativity, it's
Yeah.
not spirituality, it's a disgrace. You are it's the
Absolutely.
equivalent of sleepwalking, it's the equivalent of drinking alcohol every day. You're distracting yourself from the truth. True spirituality is having the guts to face the truth. Even if you cry, it's okay. Even if you're in pain, it's okay. You should say, it does, I will bear this pain, I will bear this negativity, because facing the truth is far more important.
Yeah, facing the truth is far more important. I mean, just imagine, when Britishers were ruling our country, and if these freedom fighters, like young freedom fighters in their 20s, like Bhagat Singh, etc., would have said that, oh, let me focus on my, on my positive thinking. I should not focus on the negativities which are being, put down by the Britishers, etc. Then who would have fought? And maybe, we would have still been under the rule and under the iron thumb of, the British crown, right? They had the courage to come out. They had the courage to speak the truth. They even had the courage to sacrifice their own lives for the sake of telling the truth. I'm not saying, I have that courage of sacrificing my life. I'm just trying to say that that is something, which is admirable. Instead of focusing on the positivity aspect and trying to bypass this entire journey, of facing uh, all sorts of bad things as well as good things in the world out there. Because uh, a lot of my disagreements with friends, etc., happen on these issues, because I have a few friends who are spiritual, sort of in their predispositions, and they would often say that, law of attraction. I mean, that such negative thoughts are against the law of attraction, etc., etc., and one should focus on the positivity, etc. And it is very easy, to get psyoped by that narrative, law of attraction, and think positive, etc., etc., because it feels very good, and it actually makes you feel good because it is a psyop. It is meant to make you feel the way it has been designed. But then, if one thinks a little, in a little nuanced way, in a little deeper way, then again it does not make any sense, because if everybody follows this logic of, of avoiding their own emotions when they face the truth, then how are they integrating themselves? How are they integrating their shadows? How are they trying to transmute all these sufferings in their work, in their life as well as in their community around. So yeah, I mean, sometimes it is so, I mean, sometimes you get angry also, at these people, that how do they think like that, and why do they think like that, and how are they not aware uh, of of such things, and why are they so scared in facing their own truths, in facing their own demons, in facing the demons out there in the world and within themselves, etc. So doesn't make sense. And if you compare it to the ancient texts, any religion, I mean, not just ours, any religion across the world, then I guess that every religion, in a way teaches us that although the path towards freedom is through truth, because they say that truth shall set you free, but before it sets you free, it sort of you have to participate in facing it, in gazing at it without moving your eyes, and that entire process is not a cakewalk, because you get to face demons, you get to face the negativity, and then you have to sit with it. You have to, do all those things to transmute that. So every ancient archetype or scriptures have taught us this, and suddenly, this new age, I guess, has tried to bypass that one aspect of the entire path, and that one aspect, to my mind, is somehow ignoring what's right in front of you, and then believing that just because you ignore it, it'll sort of go away. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
yeah, I get very irritated by them also. Like, I had a friend who was a lot into this kind of Deepak Chopra. He used to use the word transmute
oh,
a lot. He used to talk about law of attraction a lot. And I don't want to mention his name, but he's been a guest on my podcast also. He's a
okay.
nice guy. Okay, he's a very nice guy. But we were talking about the vaccine also with them, and he's like, it's okay, man, what is there, just take it, no, and he's gone and taken it also. So I was very disappointed because see, even my parents also took the COVID vaccine. It's fine with them, I understand, because they are typical people of our society. But with this guy who acts so open minded, who talks about spirituality so much, and so when he took, I didn't understand the logic. And then later I realized that this is a spirituality of convenience. This is not a spirituality of facing pain, because
Yeah.
truth is often painful. And yeah, see, let them do whatever they want to heal their chakras, and they want to do their they want to play around with the crystals
I
whole
like the way
day.
you said, yeah, I like the way you said that word, chakras.
They, yeah,
Yeah.
let them do their dog yoga whole day. But I'm happy here. For me, my spirituality is action. During 2021, I almost felt like, it's better to. I don't know if I actually meant it, but I said it many times. Like, it's better to just die than to live like this. And during 2021 end, the city corporation's commissioner here in Mangalore even said that you can't enter the corporation building if you are not vaccinated. So me and a group of people, we started a small group called Wake Up Mangalore. We had a WhatsApp group. We were like, you know what, we have to go meet this commissioner. What does he think of himself? And forget entering the corporation building. We even entered his office. We gave him a paper with 100 signatures, and we argued with them
Yeah.
like properly, and it came on the media and everything. That
Yeah. I think
is for
I saw
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah, that is spirituality for me. You taking
Yeah. Yeah.
action
Very well said.
according to your
Yeah.
beliefs, even if those actions are difficult. That is
Yeah.
spirituality.
Yeah.
Spirituality is not some people, when they think of spirituality, they just think, oh, spirituality, meditation, yoga, writing affirmations and all that. I have nothing against that. Cool. But it's also facing the truth. Okay, it's also taking actions that might get you in trouble, but you are standing up to your beliefs despite all that difficulty. That is also spirituality, because you're being true to your spirit. You're essentially saying that even if my body has to suffer, there is something called the spirit that might live forever, and you're paying a tribute to your spirit by standing up to your beliefs. To me, that is spirituality. By following what is convenient for you, you're not worshipping your spirit, you're worshipping your body, and that is not a spiritual
Yeah.
thing at all.
That's very well said, man. That's very well said. And I'm suddenly reminded of my early childhood days because I used to go to a Christian school, and since it was a Christian school, they used to celebrate Christmas with a lot of fanfare and stuff. And I remember one day, when I was told that Santa Claus does not exist, right? And I vividly remember, that day as a small kid was one of the worst days of my life because I had been believing in a figure as a kid, as a very small kid, since such a long time. And, on Christmas Eve, I would place my socks outside the balcony. And my parents were kind enough, that when I woke up, I would find some gifts and some chocolates in, in those socks, like a lot of parents do, right? To keep up the belief. And then one day, that belief sort of gets shattered that actually Santa Claus does not exist. And typically, when that happens, when a narrative gets shattered because you have been living on that narrative since a very long time, there is a duration of time after the narrative gets shattered that you go low, at a mental level, because you've been, because you structured your entire belief system and your life story around that narrative that Santa Claus exists, right? And then there is this duration, when you realize that, oh, it was just a fake story. So, you sort of go down in a low mode. Something very similar happened in 2020. for a lot of us, because uh, we used to think that our governments take care of us, right? The authorities, like World Health Organization, etc., are there to support us, are there to help us, etc. And when certain people saw the reality, they obviously, I'm sure there might have been a time when even you felt low or maybe depressed. So how was that time period for you, and how did you come to terms with the fact that Santa Claus does not exist anymore? And what steps did you take, to come out of that?
So I was always skeptical of government. This COVID phase only made it obvious. So if it was very sudden, then I think I would have gone into a shock. But I was always the kind of person who knew that government doesn't have our best interests. So I was always skeptical of government, of authority, and like you said, Santa Claus. Even in school, I used to question things like I used to question religion. So this is something that has been a lifelong experiment for me, and there would be certain beliefs that my mother or my aunts would have. I would question that, like,
Yeah,
uh, like this might sound very stupid or offensive. Like I would ask questions like, if when rich people pray, you say that good things happen to them, but why don't good things happen to poor people who also pray? And I would ask all these questions every day, which would get them very irritated. And I went to a Catholic school and then a Catholic college. In our college, if we left a beard, they would some people would get fined, and the teachers would say, the lecturers would say, you shouldn't leave a long beard, you will look like a rowdy. But every classroom would have a cross, and on that cross there was a handsome man with a handsome beard. So by saying that having a beard makes you look like a bad guy, you're insulting your own god. So I would constantly ask questions like this. So because from my teenage itself, I've been questioning authority, questioning religion, culture, questioning elders, questioning college administrators. Questioning government was not a new thing to me. It was just an addition. So for me, it wasn't shocking. It was part of the process for me.
okay, so you sort of crossed over a little easy,
Yeah,
because you've been having that state of mind since a very, very long time. No, no,
yeah,
that's amazing. That's really good. Do we have more time, or like?
yeah. I have time. I have time.
Okay, okay, perfect. All right. So, uh, what do you think of, the way relationships are turning out these days? Divorce rates have gone up. Uh, Single people all around, not willing to get married. Uh, a lot of individuation has come, and a lot of mistrust for the other gender, for the other gender has come. What is your, take on that?
Yeah, I think firstly, I'm not a big expert, and even the social media experts say a lot of misleading things all the time when it comes to relationships. Uh, I'm not some I'm not some playboy or anything like that. I want to get that. I don't want to sound like some dating coach who says like, this is how you get girls. I've had 10 girlfriends in the past. This is how you get laid. I don't want to say any of that because I'm not a, I'm not an expert in that. But when it comes to,
No, I'm asking this culturally,
yeah,
like
culturally,
at a culture level. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So in uh, I've the age at which people are getting married is going up and up and up, and a lot of people are choosing not to get married, which is something that I understand because as a 30-year-old single guy, my sister got married this year, and my parents, even some of my relatives are like, oh, so now it's your turn because you're 30,
yeah.
and you should get married now. And some of them even say like, you want us to find a girl for you, we'll get you arranged married and this and that. I'm not against arranged marriage. In fact, I think it's necessary for most Indians. I think the marriage and a desire to have a companion and eventually have children can provide stability and meaning to a lot of people. People see what is the I'm not for marriage also, I'm not anti also, because you have to look at the alternative to not getting married. So the alternative for a lot of for a lot of women is career, and they focus on their feminist careers. They have a bunch of cats in their house. They become lonely. Instead of working for their loving husband and children, they work for some other strange man who will make them work night shifts on weekends, and for them that is empowerment. I don't see any difference. At least a traditional wife will serve a loving husband instead of working for some multinational stranger.
You know, a lot of
And
people will take offense to what you just said.
it's a fact, and men are
Yeah,
no better. Okay, what is the
yeah.
alternative for men just watch, go on Pornhub, they go on OnlyFans in the West, and they jerk off 3 times a day, and they think, oh, now we are free because we are not married, we don't have to uh, worry about a wife and children. So I think marriage and this whole idea of having children is a good idea. Especially, it was a good idea, especially in the past. Now it's become very impractical for most people,
Yeah.
because the
Yeah.
number of divorces are going up. If you divorce your wife, you have to pay a huge alimony. In India,
Economically doesn't make sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
in India, laws are being misused. Section 498A, if you follow people like Deepika Nara and Bharadwaj,
Yeah, yeah,
who's
yeah.
a,
Deepika Narayan. Yeah, yeah.
and there's one more gentleman called Amit Lakni, who I've had on the podcast, who's also a men's rights activist.
Okay.
So these people have seen many men. The women file a false dowry case, a false a rape case, and there are girls who consensually sleep with guys, and then they say this guy promised to marry me, now he's not marrying me. Therefore, I'll file a rape case against him. So you see a lot of that, and naturally people become less and less trusting. And to add to all this, we have the gender confusion. I have nothing against homosexuality. If a man wants to sleep with another man in his bedroom, that's his business. But then when you take that ideology and when you shove it on my face with the rainbow flag, and with telling that we have to teach this to kids, that is also very irritating. So we used to
Yeah.
have a traditional society where there were men and women, and the main reason why marriage was universal all around the world, the main reason was to reduce the number of bastards, because there were a lot of children outside wedding, and we didn't know
Mm.
who should take care of whose children. So they were like, you
Mm.
marry her, have a couple of children, okay, and then your children become farmers because you're farmers, your children become carpenters because you're carpenters, your children become warriors because you're warriors. And that's how the feudal system in the West, caste system in India, developed. And it had advantages because it provided stability, and also it has pros and cons. I'm not saying that it's
Yeah.
perfect. And
Yeah.
as we have moved to the 20th 21st century, we've had multiple reforms. It's great, but now we are at a point where we are saying goodbye to a lot of necessary traditions, uh, where we are questioning gender, what is a man, what is a woman, even basic questions like that cannot be answered anymore. Yet men and women will say that women are victims of men. But if you go and ask that same woman what is a woman, she'll say I don't know. Then how can women be victims? So
Yeah.
this is the whole place where we are at right now. And to speak personally from my experience also, see, I'm 30, I don't know if marriage is for me personally. I genuinely don't know, because it's very difficult to find the right woman. And when you look at the rising expenses to send a school to send your kid to a good school, I don't know if I want to have children. Now if I have a like-minded woman who's okay with homeschooling, or if we have a community of like-minded people, it is obviously much easier to have families. Unfortunately, we live in a very isolated way, especially if you live in a metropolitan city like Noida or Gurgaon or Pune or Mumbai or Bangalore. You're so isolated, you live in your gated communities. Many of the people don't know their own neighbor's name. So
Mhm.
it's much harder now to have families.
Yeah. And also adding in the fact that there is an active discouragement at every level by the authorities to discourage people to get married and to discourage people to reproduce. Yesterday, I was reading a article which said that men's brain shrink when they have kids. Now, this article is apparently based on a study, and I'm sure this study is as sham as our other recent studies, on which our medical science has been based in the last 3 years. The point I'm trying to make is that everybody is trying to tell in some way or the other that why marriage should not be done. And when I say everybody, I basically mean, the the people who are disseminating this information or who are disseminating this narrative, who are responsible for spreading out such narratives, that there's an active war on men and women getting together. There has been an active because when you said that it's not easy to find women who are compatible at your mental level because of so many things like false cases these days, etc. I think that, I mean, I don't know if I should blame these people, these women or men, or I should blame the people who are sitting at the top and who have literally spellbounded them by giving out such narratives that if you're a woman, you're a victim. If you're a man, then this woman can take your money and go away, and you will have to pay alimony. So again, that fear psychosis is being drilled inside individuals so that people are getting uh, non-trustworthy of each other, and that entire hate, that entire victimhood mentality is being projected on the other person. A lady would say that I'm a victim and men have victimized me over the centuries, over the generations. A man would also have a similar story, to say about the opposite gender, right? And the point is that, are these stories even real, or are these just imaginations which have been put in our head by such narratives? Because I heard Hillary Clinton, saying last year that when men die in wars, the primary, uh, the person who suffers the most is the wife who's left behind. So this doesn't make any sense, because the person who's getting split up, on the battleground, right? You are completely ignoring that. And again, you are, putting the victimhood crown on the wife or on the woman. So, there has been so much of social construction, in in this decade, so to say, that the mistrust between people, between ideologies, between genders have grown till such an extent, and people are ending up blaming each other. And this fight should have been us versus them, not men versus women or not women versus men, because these things are coming from the narratives which are being produced at the mass media level, at the top level. And it's a deliberate social engineering of your own thoughts, trying to project that, oh, you have been victimized by these people since centuries, etc. So if people can discern that, can differentiate that no, it's not that this person has victimized me. It is basically the other way around, that all of us are being exploited or victimized in some way or the other by our governments, by our kings or queens who have ruled in the past, because these structures have been always like that. Then I guess it would be so much easier for people to intermingle with each other in such a better way. Relationships would be so much better. And just trying to say that things which are happening at the personal level, right, even they are being engineered at such a great extent by well thought out narratives and well thought out mass media programs and psyops, right, at the global level. that it's just fascinating and it's just amazing. Like really, I mean, it's it's really something amazing. That uh, as we were talking about hacking our mind, that this narrative has literally hacked every person's mind in today's day and age, where people just do not want to trust the other gender, and same for them. They do not want to trust us because of so many narratives and stories which have been shoved down their throats over time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even I used to think that my life, all the problems in my life is because of my personal actions, and self responsibility is important, but a lot of the things that happen in our life is not even our fault. Sometimes there is a system, there is the
Yeah.
state. A lot of the problems that we have right now, for example, if a man chooses to not get married, yes, it's a personal problem, but it's not. He has to realize that that problem was not caused solely by him, but also
Mhm.
by society, by
Yeah.
maybe the economy is really bad, maybe the inflation is high, maybe the state wants you to think that way. So yeah, a lot of the things that happen in our life is outside our control, and that's the reason why I think community is very important. It is very important for us to find people who have the same values as us. And earlier, I think when people used to live in villages, when people lived in tribes, it was much easier to coexist. And even if you wanted a like-minded group of people, if you wanted a like-minded woman in a tribe, you have similar values, it's easier. But now we are constantly on social media, like, oh, I'm right wing, you're left wing, I'm a capitalist, you're a communist, and we find these meaningless differences, and we fight over it constantly. I'm guilty of this too. And
Yeah, yeah, same here.
yeah, so I think all this is fine, but I think we have to go past it, and we have to somehow find a community or a tribe or even a cult, if necessary, of like-minded people, so that we can grow in life.
Yeah, very well said. So, what next, Pratham? Like, what are your future plans? Where do you go from here? And what do you do right now? And just tell us something about your personal life.
Yeah, so I worked for three big companies. My last job was I was working as a contractor for the big four, for one of the big four financial corporation,
Okay.
and
Wow.
it was a contractual job. So the contract got terminated, or it got expired last month. So from last month I've been looking for a job. I've been exploring in India and also outside. I've been applying in the Middle East. I've been thinking of going abroad as well. I'm looking at the IELTS exam, how to go to Canada. I'm not entirely looking. I don't think I'll be going to Canada, but
Yeah,
I'm still.
Canada is a sad story.
Yeah, it's a sad story, but they're giving
Yeah.
PRs like anything. They're like they want.
Yeah.
They're taking, I think, 1 million people in a year, and they're like, we'll give you 5 year permanent residency. So many. A few of my friends also have moved to Canada. The standard of living
Yeah.
is good. So I'm thinking of, I'll probably not go, but I might still write 1 or 2 exams, because right now I'm unemployed. I want to use my time productively. And I'm also doing a course on data analytics just to keep myself updated, to upskill myself, because I've only been working in finance, but now I'm seeing that there is more scope in data analysis in AI. So I just want to upskill
Mm.
myself. And I also want, when it comes to the Labyrinth, my podcast, I'm slowing things down a little bit. Earlier I used to get a guest every week, now I get maybe once a month. And I'll also get guests more selfishly. Like if I'm studying about data analysis, I'll get a guest who's into data analysis. If I want to move abroad, I'll get a guest who knows about moving abroad. My last guest was Jayant
Mm.
Bandari, and my the last part of that podcast was how to leave India and how to move abroad, get jobs and stuff
Okay.
like that.
Okay.
So I'll do more of that, because this for me, this is like a personal development process. And I am a very selfish person. The biggest the like the first person that I think about when doing the podcast is me. I'm the first audience member. of my own
Mm.
podcast.
Yeah.
So, like, I care about my audience also of this 100, 200,000 people, but I
Mhm.
come first. Because I watch all of my, I don't watch the entire podcast, but I use it for my own knowledge, for my own information. So I'll continue doing that as well. So right now I don't have any strong plans. Just looking for a job. I hopefully I'll get it in a few months, and yeah, that's about
You're in
it.
Bangalore right now, right?
Right now I'm in Mangalore with an M. So
Bangalore. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
I used to work for many years in Bangalore. Then after COVID, I moved because I had work from home, so I moved to my hometown.
All right. All right. It was great. I think we met today. It was great having this conversation with you. Let's call it a day. I think we've discussed about so many things and try to touch upon various things, but this conversation and these things are so large, and there's so much to explore that you can never reach the end of it, in 1 hour or in a few hours. So I guess a lot of things are unfolding as we speak, and they'll keep on unfolding. And let's catch up again sometime. I maybe I'll be coming down to Bangalore in the first week of August, so that's why I asked. How far is Bangalore from there?
It's close. It's 7 hours from here. It's like 300
Okay, so let's
kilometers.
see, if we can catch up somehow. Let's see. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pratham. It was great having you. And I guess let's catch up again sometime
Sure.
over another great topic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, thanks for getting me on your podcast. This was a wonderful conversation, and I'm looking forward to
Anything
meet you
you
again.
would like to say in the last 30 seconds or 1 minute to anyone who would be watching this? Any message, anything, whatever
Yeah,
comes in your mind.
I just ask people to be more open-minded, to think more freely, and yeah, that's about it. I mean, I don't have much to say.
Mm. All right. Great to have you, man. Hope to see you sometime soon. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Thank
All
you.
right.
Yeah.
Thank you.